Hello and welcome to Meet Our Makers, an artist interview podcast produced in association with Beats Per Minute. I'm your host, Jeremy J. Facette. On this episode, we get to meet Japanese Breakfast. That is the moniker for Michelle Zauner, who has now released her third record under the Japanese Breakfast name, called Jubilee. In this chat, she and I discuss at length some of the sonic inspirations and the lyrical inspirations behind this new record, including her goal in general to celebrate joy, something she feels maybe isn't celebrated often enough in popular music. We also talk about her debut memoir, Crying in H Mart, which came out a few months ago and landed on the New York Times Bestsellers List. The memoir centers largely around her relatively complex relationship with her late mother, so she and I talk a bit about that, the concerns that she had with some of her family reading the book, as well as the dichotomy between personal and fictional in her songwriting. We talk about the freedom she felt of the third album with Jubilee, as well as the complicated origin story of her single, Posing in Bondage. We talk about a lot more too, and I really think you'll enjoy it. So thank you for listening. This is me meeting Japanese Breakfast.
Hi, there you are, in the ether.
I feel like you have such a podcast voice.
You feel like what?
You have such a podcast voice.
Oh, I appreciate that, considering I've only been doing this for like a year, but...
You said hello and I was like, oh my God, I'm on a podcast.
Oh no, it's begun.
In a good way.
I mean, hey, I appreciate
important
it.
thing.
Yeah, I mean, otherwise, what the hell am I doing? I don't know. How are you? How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm just coming down from work, so so this is gonna be a nice chill hangout session.
Great. Do you need me to record anything on my end or?
No, I record both. It's fine.
Okay, great.
Yeah. So thank you so much for agreeing to talk to me today. I'm sure you're quite busy these days with all your many plates spinning. So I do appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. So just off the top, let's talk about some of those plates. You have a new album, which I believe when this goes up will already be out, but it's coming out on June 4th on Dead Oceans. It is called Jubilee, your third album as Japanese Breakfast. You also had a book, like literally just come out into the world, Crying in H Mart, which is a memoir. So you are having quite a year. Where are you emotionally right now? How are you doing with all of that going on?
I feel like I'm just trying to keep my head above water. It's all been very surreal. A lot of people have kind of prefaced interviews with like, how does it feel like to be experiencing this? And, I'm just inside in my apartment,
Right.
and things feel like pretty much the same. But yeah, I mean, I'm just delighted. I was so nervous, for this book in particular. And I never thought that this book was going to come out before this record. So I honestly haven't even thought much about the record coming out because like the book has been such a whirlwind. And yeah, I'm just trying to appreciate it, but it's kind of tough because I'm doing so many interviews and, I haven't really like had much time to revel in it all. But I feel like once we are released into the world, it'll hit me a little bit more.
Yeah. So the book came out in April, is that right?
April 20th, 420.
April 20th. And so not even 2 months on, you're going to put out a new record. You are, as far as I've been aware of you've never been a songwriter to shy away from, getting real and getting personal in your lyrics. But now you have that in a whole different form, in the book form, coming out at the same time. Do you feel any differently about that side of you being revealed versus a Jubilee side of you being revealed?
Jubilee feels very low pressure now.
Okay.
I think also just because I was like, I want to write an album about joy, and I don't know I also think I've allowed myself to be like a little bit more cryptic with this record, maybe because I've just exposed so much of myself in the book. I was definitely nervous about the book coming out, and there were moments that I was, really overanalyzing like what people would think of me. But I've been really delighted by the response. It's been overwhelmingly positive, and every time I've encountered any slight negativity, I just, think they're really stupid. So it's been pretty easy to like brush off anyone that hasn't been a fan, which is surprisingly few and far between. I was on it, to be honest, I was so worried about the Asian American community, and feeling like I was like pandering in some way, on either side. And it's been overwhelmingly not like that. And I've had people write to me about my music moving them in some way, but the type of like not mail, but like
those letters that you get with stamps.
The type of DMs that I get about the book have just like really floored me on it. I mean, the amount of like the way that a book can touch people, particularly this type of book, has been really moving in this way that I didn't even anticipate. So much of the book was just written for me to figure stuff out, and I just tried to, and I had this like validation before of writing records that, were for me and felt like very specific to my experiences and wound up being these very universal things. And, so I had some encouragement of like just continuing on that path. But I didn't anticipate this big of a thing.
Yeah.
I mean, I thought it was good, but I wasn't like...
Well, no, of course. Yeah.
I didn't even think it was good. Like, I was so honestly, like, I was devastated when I turned in the book because, I just think you just push as hard as you can go. And it always feels like you should be in my head. It's like, I see myself like 3 steps above where I actually land. I feel like I always try to do that. I can see this like smarter, more like literary version of myself in the horizon, and I can never quite meet it. And so I was so devastated when I turned it in, and I had to just really console myself of just like, this is where you're at right now. You've never written a book. Like, this is where your skill set lies. Like, this is the best you can do right now. I felt like I just lost all perspective because I'd just been in it for so long. And then it took me many months before it wasn't really until I like reread the audiobook, and I revisited the material for like 3 consecutive days. And I was like, this is pretty good. Like, it's okay. It's going to be okay. But for a while there, I really wasn't sure.
Yeah. Well, that distance too, that you can't get while you're writing it, you get the distance. You took I'm assuming quite a pause before you went back to do the audio version.
Yeah. Yeah. Like,
so yeah, you get that like time away, and then you come back and maybe you're like, oh yeah. Okay.
Yeah, there's some good stuff here.
Oh yeah, this isn't too shabby. Okay. So we will definitely talk more about the book in a bit, but I do want to get into this record a little. So Jubilee, like I said, it's your 3rd record. You are 3 for 3 with Dead Oceans, which is always nice to see. So your first record, Psychopomp, from I think 2015, I want to say. And then, and then Soft Sounds from Another Planet from 2018. 20. Oh wow, I'm totally. My notes are betraying me. So you come from a decidedly sort of DIY, like lo-fi kind of vibe, whereas I think Soft Sounds kind of did it a little bit, and then now Jubilee is so. I don't want to say the opposite of lo-fi because there's still kind of that DNA in there, but it's so bright. It's such a full production. Were you trying to kind of push yourself this time to kind of go in a more strong sonic sort of vibe, that sort of avenue? I don't know what I'm trying to say, but were you trying to go there?
I will say I never tried to be lo-fi. They were just, the means, like, when you don't have any money. I mean, to be honest, like, not much changed. I mean, like, we aren't in like a quote unquote professional studio. And it's still Craig Hendricks and I producing most of it together and playing most of it together. But I think that we're just better now. And I think I'm a much better arranger, producer, and so is he. And I just think that we have a better idea of how we work with each other and what we're doing now, in particular me. But yeah, I think that there was just more preparation. I think I was always striving to make something like clear and beautiful. I just maybe didn't know how to do it as well.
Well, that's totally fair
On the
enough.
hand, yeah. And we like, had a bigger like recording budget. It helps to have someone like Heba Kadri who mastered it and George Albrecht who mixed it, but they mixed and mastered the last record too. So I think a lot of it is just having a better understanding of how music works, how dynamic works, and how production works. And
yeah, and how to get that thing you're trying to get. You get a little clearer of an image of how to get there.
Yeah.
Because it's a very colorful record. It's very textural. It's very, you said it's mostly about joy, and I feel like it does even feel like your most joyous record.
Thank you. I think so too.
Yeah, I think quite markedly actually, because you've been known, and you kind of just mentioned earlier that you went to a bit of a more cryptic place maybe with some of these songs. But on albums past, you've had songs like This House or In Heaven or Roadhead that are pretty personal, or at least obviously personal. Do you not think you did that this time? Were you trying not to do that this time?
Maybe subconsciously I was like, I don't want to be grief girl anymore. And you do all these, I mean, obviously it didn't work out for me because like the book and the album coming out right on top of each other. So I still have to do like interviews, like 9 a day of like, tell me about how your mom dying. But I think subconsciously I was like, it would be great to like explore the other side of the spectrum. I felt like I was giving myself permission to feel joy in a lot of ways and accepting this like, beautiful place I'm at in my life. I'm also, in my 30s, and like, I just liked, like the idea. I think that this is something that I've done on records past more than people realize, but I do like that an album lends itself to incorporating fiction and nonfiction. I think for the most part, I write songs that are rooted in some type of reality, because I'm interested in the human experience and connection and relationships and how we hurt each other and how we love each other. And sometimes those things are best explored through personal experience, and sometimes they're best explored through fiction. And for me personally, I think that there are maybe a few more songs that are from these sort of like fictional characters, maybe largely because I don't, feel as intensely as I did when I was younger. And that's like what makes a great song, is like those types of feelings. And, I don't feel longing or heartbreak in the way that I used to, because I'm a married gal, and like things are like pretty great in my, monogamous relationship. And, but yeah, I mean, I found myself like writing from different perspectives in some ways, because I think you need some of that drama, I guess, for a record.
Well, there's also that sort of really old, assumption about songwriters that they like only write about themselves. And it does feel, as it has seemingly for decades, felt like women get the brunt of that.
Totally.
Like I remember I think I was reading an interview years ago with like Nico Case, who hardly ever writes about herself, but for some reason people just assume she did. Or like when PJ Harvey came out with Down by the Water, and people thought she like killed a baby. Like it's
Totally.
that crazy shit. Whereas she's like, no, I'm just a storyteller, like like everyone else. What's wrong with that?
Dave does it all the time.
Right.
I feel like I remember seeing Bjork talking about Flanicura, and she was like, I wrote all these like other like heady top from like about biophilia is like and all of these like sort of like tech like records rooted in technology, and no one they were way less popular than when I went through this divorce and had to like excavate my trauma for you, like only
for sure.
Did I like experience, like were you so interested. So yeah, I think that that's a really fair thing, and maybe I wanted to like fuck with that a little bit too. Like I think that there's obviously like a real sad indie girl stereotype, and to come out with an album about joy just seems like perverse in a way.
Well, there's not a lot of them. I mean, joy and happiness, like that's not what is usually the popular thing to write about for, I'm sure myriad reasons, but it's not common. So it's kind of refreshing, I would think, to both be someone who's creating that, and then also for us to listen to it. It's not every day you hear an album that's sort of, that's aim was about joy. Is that where the title comes from, by the way? Like Jubilee, like celebrating?
Yeah, definitely. I had the idea for the title for a long time. I wanted to return to like the one word title, and I just, it's also the Asian X-Men.
Oh.
And that wasn't like the reason, but yeah, looking into Jubilee, like biblically, it's a year of release. It's a triumph, it's a trumpet blast of victory. And yeah, I liked the idea. I mean, there's just a lot of horns on the album, and it felt like a real celebration and letting joy in.
So, with that in mind, what were some of the sort of like musical, the ideas and the motives behind some of the musical elements? Like, what was sort of driving you this time?
I was thinking a lot about LP3. Like that was a really big deal for me because I think it's the first time that as an artist you can kind of look at your work in the context of the other work that you've made. You know, you have like a catalog. I felt so much pressure for the sophomore album. I had such a real fear of the sophomore slump, and that my first record had been a fluke, that I felt like for a third record, you should really have a good idea of who you are as an artist and what you want to put forward. And it should feel confident and ambitious and bombastic. And so the records I was thinking about were like, Bjork's Homogenic, Wilco Summer Teeth, Beach Houses, Teen Dream, like Fiona Apple's Extraordinary Machine. They're all records where I feel like an artist really has like established who they are. And it feels like all of the like things that made up their other records are sort of like coalescing into this like big moment. So I thought about that a lot. And I also was really worried, like as an indie artist that was continuing to grow larger, I really didn't want to make a pop record. And so I've been, there have been some journalists who've been like tempted to like pin that on this record, and I don't think that's fair at all.
Oh, I lost you for a minute.
I don't know why I'm having so many issues today.
Okay, wait, I think you're back. The last thing I heard was that journalists are calling your new album pop.
Oh, okay. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I think you're good.
Okay, sorry.
It's fine. This is the hazard of doing a Zoom interview.
Hate this shit. Yeah, I feel like a lot of indie artists, like when they get to a certain level, they want to pivot to pop because like it feels like there's nowhere further to go as an indie artist. And that was like not something that I was interested in at all. And I think a lot of indie artists like start sucking when they begin to like pander to that. But then I was also really interested how artists like Kate Bush and like mostly Kate Bush and Bjork, like
always Kate Bush and Bjork. There's nothing
Kate
wrong
Bush
with that.
And Bjork, like, they are these artists with like massive appeal, but they're so fucking weird,
Oh, yeah.
And I just wanted to lean into the parts of me that were, I wanted to lean into the surreal. I wanted to lean into like the weirdo, like idiosyncrasies of just like my natural creative interest. And yeah, so that was like what I was really interested in trying for. Also, Alex G is like another artist that like essentially like makes pop music, but it's so wacky, and I just like that's what I really love about him. And so I just wanted to make sure that I maintained and found that within myself.
Yeah, I think Kate Bush is a pretty apt connection, and not even that you sound anything like her, because you don't. And I that's another thing that always bothers me, is when especially female artists come out with literally anything that's even remotely strange, and journalists are like, oh, it's very Bush inspired. It's like, no, it's not. It's really not. But I do think it's not a terrible link to make, because if you look at her discography, her third record is Never Forever, which is where she just started to kind of get weird, and then and then 2 or 3 years later you get The Dreaming, which is batshit insane. And she still had it, like she didn't she only kept growing. And so there must be that room for weirdness, and everyone, it's a thing that people don't even, it's not foreign to us, like we know what weirdness is, but for some reason I think so many people are kind of afraid to be weird in their music. But I feel like you're right, like this third record thing, it's like an opportunity to just be like, well, you know what, here is really it, here it really is. Here's what I really want to do. It reminds me of sequencing on a record too. Like, I don't know how obsessive you are about sequencing.
I'm pretty obsessive about
I feel like I'm also a songwriter, so I get that. I'm like, see, I used to make, like mixes for friends, and I'd obsess over like what song goes where, and yeah. But that's kind of a similar thing too. It's like the first song theoretically introduces you to the record, gives you maybe a little taste of what's going to happen. Maybe second song is like the single or the slightly faster cut, and then the third song is like the make it or break it moment. It's like the third song is such an important, I think, slot on a record. I think that's why so many record title tracks are the third tracks.
Totally.
So yeah, I like that idea that you were like, you know what, I'm just gonna do my thing how I want to do it now, and it is what it is.
That's all I have.
Yeah, right. I want to specifically talk for a second about the second single, Posing in Bondage. The first single, Be Sweet, was very lived up to its name. It's a very, very bright, sunny kind of song, at least in tone. And then Posing in Bondage is sort of the inverse of that. It's like this still life moment, very gentle, but then kind of like increasingly propulsive, kind of right under the surface, this like frozen in time moment. What is that song about to you, and what was the process of creating that one?
Yeah. I feel like that song is about tension, I think sonically it just feels like taut and
That's a good word for it.
Yeah, sort of like bondage, I guess. I think I just love the image of I guess it's about emotional neediness in a way, and monogamy to a certain extent. I'm trying to be like more cryptic about
it's okay.
what songs are about, but I like the image of this woman done up in bondage, like waiting for someone who never comes home. It felt like a heightened visual of what I think I feel a lot. I'm like such a needy, codependent person. And I never feel like I am getting enough affection from people. And so I think that, it's like an exaggerated kind of version of that feeling. And I also think that it's about like the bondage of monogamy in a way, like how you make certain sacrifices for this, like really in a good way, like you make certain sacrifices to hold on to loyalty in a relationship. And yeah, that's what that song is about. I wrote it I think in like 2017 or 2018 for this polyvinyl 4-track series, and Craig Hendricks and I recorded it, and we had spent most of our time on the first track, which was called 2042, and then this one got kind of like a shitty treatment. And it was just very, very lo-fi, but it always really stuck with me because I loved the lyrics and the song, and just felt like it needed to get its due. And then I brought it to Joel Ford and Tom Krell, who are both from How to Dress Well, who are both musicians that I adore. And we tried to work on it, and it was, I've never talked about this. Hopefully they don't. It was horrible. I don't know why it was horrible, but it just it just was not a vibe.
It's nobody's fault.
Yeah. I don't know if it was just like, maybe if we had spent longer on it, or if I had more direction. I just knew that it needed to feel tense and like full of longing, and it just wasn't, and kind of industrial. And I just wasn't getting there. And so Jack Tatum from Wild Nothing and I had just worked on Be Sweet in like February 2018, September or October or something. It says my internet connection is unstable on my.
Oh, I can hear you.
Okay, great. I don't know what's going on with this. Yeah, so Jack Tatum came to Philadelphia to my studio in like September or October to like revisit Be Sweet and kind of clean it up. And I had sent him Posing in Bondage, and he really just like went off with it, and he came and he sent it over, and it was so close already to what I wanted that song to be. And then we kind of like added like the weird pitched vocals at the end, and kind of like tighten things, little things up. But for the most, it was like one of the first songs that I kind of sent off with someone else, and production wise, they came back with something really, really close without me being in the room. And yeah, he's just like a real sonic wizard. Like he has like some real elegant decision, like tonal decision making that goes on.
And he's known for such dreamy, you know, pop music, and there is something dreamy about Posing in Bondage, but not in a sweet way. It's a very almost nightmarish menacing. Yeah, that's a good word for it. Yeah, and you said taut before. Yeah, it feels like this woman is like I love that line early on, you know, can't you tell I've been like this for hours? But like that metaphor is so all encompassing. You know, this woman who's just been however she is for hours waiting and longing, as you say, and then nothing comes. It's that sort of climax that never arrives, and that tautness. Yeah, now that you said that word, I'm like, oh, that's the word. But you can feel that. You can feel that tension in there. Totally.
Yeah.
And speaking of that track, I love the video for that track.
Thank you.
You self-directed the 2 videos that I have seen so far, the Be Sweet and Posing in Bondage videos. There's another one coming, right?
Oh yeah.
Did you self-direct that one as well?
I did. I directed the trilogy. I've directed most of my music videos.
Oh, okay. What do you enjoy about that process, about like directing your own videos versus maybe handing it off to someone else?
It's like so much work, honestly. That's like not. It feels like sometimes there's nothing to enjoy, but I love conceptualizing the video, and I just feel like I have, you know, like when you start, it's like you can't afford a director, and then it's like you start getting budgets that are bigger, and you don't want to give it up to someone because you know, why waste this opportunity to like explore this craft? Is sort of how I feel. Like so much of directing feels like it's just rooted in budget, like how much budget you have, unfortunately. But yeah, I got to the point where I just like, you know, our budgets got larger and the ideas got larger, and I just like, I couldn't bear to just like give that to someone, and I just don't trust anyone. I feel like so yeah, and I don't know, it's just, I also just have such a wonderful relationship with Adam Kolodny, the cinematographer for all the music videos, that it would just be weird to give that up at this point. You know, it's just become such a big, I don't feel like the album is done in a way unless like this other part of the story kind of accompanies it. And we typically will do like 3 videos for an album, and it always just like feels like a big part of the process. And I've always loved musicians who make that like such an essential part of their world. Like I love that Grimes is so involved in her music videos, and not to bring Bjork up and Kate Bush again, but like,
no, but you know, they're like so standards of that. Yeah,
right, exactly. And yeah, I mean, it's become, I don't know, I feel like artists that are really special always have really great music videos, so it was important for me to like dive deep in there.
Yeah, because I feel like music videos, especially maybe in the past few years, like they can be really cool, but they can also be cool and feel extremely like disassociated from the music or the work it's coming from. And I feel like people like Bjork, and I suppose Grimes is a good example too of a more current person doing that now, who really make that purposeful. You know, there's a deliberateness to their work, and they tied that in entirely with the music. I mean, Bjork used to do like 6 videos for an album, like,
right.
And they were all cool. Like, it wasn't just like she paid someone to go make something. Oh, okay, thanks. You know, it wasn't perfunctory. There was something very inspired about a lot of the stuff that they do. Anyway, so yeah, so I like that you are tying your videos into the music thoughtfully, because I feel like too many people don't do that. Do you have any like directorial aspirations for like film?
I mean, kind of, but it's like, you know, it's so much work to do a music video. It's like terrifying to think of doing that every day for like a month, you know?
Right.
But someday I feel like I might have like the gall to that on, but not for, I think
not for right now. Yeah.
Too many plates right now.
Well, like I said, I mean, you're becoming you have many trades over there right now. So, so speaking of that, so we did mention your memoir earlier. crying in H Mart. So for those who don't know, and I'm sure you're sick a little bit of this kind of thing, but can you give us like the brief what it's about? Like, what is your book about for those who know nothing about it?
Sure. H Mart is a Korean grocery chain. My mother was Korean. My father is a Caucasian man. So I grew up mixed race in a predominantly white town called Eugene, Oregon. It's mostly just about how when my mother passed away, I started going to this grocery store and to commemorate her and as a sort of thing. Yeah, I should be better at this by now. But yeah, it's about learning how to cook Korean food in the wake of loss of my mother to cancer, and learning how to preserve my cultural heritage as a mixed race person.
Mm-hmm. So I'm going to embarrass you for a second, and I'm going to read this passage I found.
Oh, lovely.
I don't know. I like this passage, so I wanted to read it for a second. It's only one paragraph. It's about when you had, I think, first moved to your new home.
Mm.
It says, I loved our new home, but I also came to resent it. There were no neighborhood children to play with, no convenience stores or parks within biking distance. I was stranded and lonely, an only child with no one to talk to or turn to but my mother. I was overwhelmed by her time and attention, a devotion that I learned could be both an auspicious privilege and have smothering consequences. So it seems like between this book and I know some of your songs, like In Heaven, were inspired by or directly about her and your relationship with her. It seems like you had a very important, but maybe complicated relationship with her. How would you characterize your relationship with your mother?
I think that like most teenage daughters and only children, my relationship with my mom was pretty tumultuous. I was also like such a hyperactive, very sensitive kid. And on top of that, I had this immigrant parent who came from an entirely different generation and culture. And there was a lot that I didn't understand about those differences that I just thought were like inherently cruel characteristics that my mother possessed. And yeah, I mean, it was sort of like, it wasn't until like my early 20s that I think that we were able to sort of return to each other in a more mature way on both parts. There's a part in the book where my mom says, I've just never met someone like you. And so similarly, she really struggled to understand me in this way. I was like I was an entitled American kid, and grew up with a lot of privileges that she never had. So any sort of part of our relationship that I struggled with, she just felt like she gave me the world and didn't understand like why we butt heads. There's just a big thing, like, I was a really creative person, and that was something that my mom felt was her duty to protect me from for many years. And that was also a major point of contention for us.
So was she not someone who was supportive really of like a music career?
She did not want me to pursue a music career. And which I think is funny because like every Asian parent, like forces their kid to learn how to play like violin or piano, but God forbid you actually enjoy it.
I wonder if she would have been okay if you were like, Mom, I want to be a concert violinist.
Maybe, yeah. But like for any parent, I mean, it's not the most like promising future. And she felt like I wouldn't have understood. And there were a lot of things that she protected me from that I was also really interested in. Like I would have had like gauged ears and like angel wing tattoos if it weren't for my mom's. So like, there were a lot of things that at the time I thought were like absurd things to protect me from, but I'm very glad she did. But yeah, I mean, that was one of those things that really stuck around. And like, I hated her for it for many years, that she kept me from this thing that I loved, that I truly felt like was my purpose. And, it's by luck that it worked out for me, but it definitely is not, I think most parents would feel like it was their duty to to alert their kid that, of the real financial risk and reality of pursuing something like this. She felt like it was not something that I was taking seriously and could anticipate. And also the kind of like mental strain and the emotional consequences of that type of lifestyle she was very worried about. So she just felt like it was her duty to protect me from it. And yeah. Who knew that I'd wind up here?
Right. It's like I was a film major in college. So, when I was going into college and all my parents and relatives were like, "Oh, what are you going to study?" And you tell them film. They're like, "Can you make money with that?"
Yeah.
Like that's the first question. I'm like, "Oh."
I was a creative writing and film studies major, and it's like the most nonsensical. Like it seems like a real setup for failure, but
oh yes, it does.
It's exactly what I do for a living now. So
that's
sometimes
true.
it does
a creative
work out.
writer,
and I direct music videos, and I learned so much of how to do that from those classes.
Yeah, for sure. So how did you then like find and decide you wanted to pursue music if you had grown up with at least one parent who was quite avidly trying to fight against that?
I just couldn't be kept away from it. My mom was always like, if you're going to do it, then you always have to have a job, or you have to do this first and do it when you're done with that. But I started playing music when I was 16, and it wasn't just like the music that I loved. It wasn't just that I loved writing music. I loved the whole industry, like I loved booking shows. I loved playing shows. I loved selling merch. I loved making merch. I loved taking the press photo. I loved, all of the like nitty gritty stuff that like, admin, like I just loved that whole world. And it just made sense to me. And so I just kept returning to it over and over again. I went to college, but I played in bands like after, my homework was done. I worked jobs and I would go on tours and get fired and go back and, get another job. So I always knew, I guess in some ways, like it really prepared me that I was going to have to fight for it. My mom definitely like from early on, like made me realize that if I really wanted to do it, I was going to have to support myself, and it was going to be hard.
Yeah. And, in a way, there's a goodness almost, not, I don't know if a goodness is the word, but there's definitely a positive spin you can put on that kind of information coming from someone as close as a parent. It's not like this objective person you don't know, right? It's this parent who theoretically, has what they think is your best interest in mind. So to hear that from them, it sounds like you did take it seriously. You just, like you said, couldn't be kept away. So if your relationship with her was complex, although it sounds like it ultimately did heal itself a bit in your 20s, as you said, what compelled you to then write this book? Like you could have done anything with this story. As we said earlier, you're a songwriter who writes relatively personal songs sometimes. Why choose this medium to tell this story?
I think I had just written two records about this experience, and it just wasn't enough. Like there was so much of a real story there. And there was just so much to unpack, so much had happened. I mean, my whole life was like folded around this moment, and my entire existence changed. I changed who I was as a person. My family changed. I was obsessed with it. I was just so wrecked by it that I just needed to sort through the rubble and make sense of it. And so, I just needed to do that in 80,000 words instead of 1,500. And, it was just like, there's just this real like palpable sense of urgency that I felt to like bare my wounds. I think that's really just how I felt. Was I just needed everyone to know what I endured. I needed to relive things I wanted to relive. I needed to like make sense of what had happened.
Was it a scary process writing the book?
It was a really hard process, to be honest. I padded it, I think, with the beginning of the book. It was a gentle wade into memory. The beginning of the book, there were a bunch of things that were a real joy to relive and spend time with. And it was the closest I could feel to my mom in a way, to being with her, was reliving these memories that make up the beginning of the book. And I feel like I padded myself well by putting that first and taking that on first before I got into like the deeper, darker stuff.
So it was a little scary, but was it healing as well at all?
Yeah, it was immensely healing. I feel like I learned so much about myself, so much about my mom, about my dad, about all the people involved, and grief in general, and relationships with parents. And yeah, I feel like I understand what happened so much more deeply, and understand my mother so much more deeply, and myself. And I feel like I was able to like forgive a lot of the stuff I really regretted and hated myself for many years.
Were you nervous at all about what your family, or especially your dad, would think of the book?
My dad is like such an open book, like even more so than me, just in his day-to-day life, that I wasn't worried about him. You know, he would be the first person to say all of this stuff, I think.
Okay.
But yeah, I don't know. I wasn't worried about him at all.
Well, that's good though.
I do feel like I was honestly very generous to him.
Okay. What about, do you have relatives on your mom's side?
I was worried about my aunt Nami, mostly just because I think Korean culture is really private. My mom was really private, and the book is going to be translated into Korean next year, and I was nervous about what she would think about it, because it's, you know, it's a very, not everyone likes to relive things, you know, and not everyone feels like this is an appropriate thing to share, but it felt important to me, you know, that as an artist, I think that that's just how I live, you know.
Yeah, sometimes it's all you can do, really.
Yeah, I mean, and I think that's like a major dilemma that a lot of queer people face, you know, especially in writing, like what you know, some people don't feel like it's what some people don't feel like is appropriate to share publicly. I think as an artist, you have to go, and everyone agrees with
you. So I did see you have a few, or maybe had a few, sort of virtual book tour dates. What's next for you this year as the world slowly opens up?
We're supposed to go in as a band.
I think you're coming to Connecticut, where I am.
Yeah, in the late summer, I think like late July, August, we have dates. And yeah, I'm hoping that those come to fruition. But yeah, I just did like a 2-week virtual book tour, and yeah, hopefully we'll be doing like real life things pretty soon here.
I know, I hope so. I hope so. I mean,
it's like really unreal, but you know, the timing.
Does.
This is what they said, so
right. This is what they promised us, so yeah. I hope we can do it. I know I keep seeing tours announced, and I'm just crossing my fingers that they don't get canceled.
I think that it's one of those things that, like, you know, human beings are so adaptable that it's going to be really weird at first, and then it's going to be normal really quickly. In the same way that like the pandemic, obviously, like, you know, it's not, but like we all adapted, and yeah,
that's true. And I hope this summer ends up opening up like we think it might. So
it feels like it's happening.
It does. It feels like we're turning a corner.
Definitely.
I hope we are.
We are.
One question from sometimes I'll ask the beats per minute writers if they have any burning questions for whoever I'm talking to, and a common one was they want to know where your moniker comes from.
Oh, it's so boring and lame. I wish I could change it.
You can, sure, reinvent yourself.
Yeah, I mean, it would, I mean, maybe I will someday, but you know, I just like it is the short answer. I thought people would see the name and be like, what is that? That sounds nice, and be comforted by something that's very beautiful and appealing.
I think that's fair enough. Before we go, I'm gonna try this a little lightning round.
Oh boy.
I've never done this before. You may be the first and last person I do this with. Right. But we're just gonna like sort of random questions, not really even about your work, and just answer with whatever you want to answer with. Actually, this first one is about your work. So question 1, there's only 3, so don't feel too intimidated. Question 1, what's your favorite song you've ever written?
Mm.
right now?
Right. Lately, it's been Kokomo, Indiana, which is the third track on the new record.
The new record, Jubilee, coming out June 4th on Dead Oceans. Number 2, what is your favorite film score?
Oh wow. I God,
Or soundtrack, if that's easier.
lightning round. I do love I would say like any Studio Ghibli movie.
Oh yeah, that's a good
Like Joe
answer.
Hisayashi's like scores are incredible. I was like super inspirational for this soundtrack called Sable. I'm doing the soundtrack for this indie game called Sable that's coming out later this year.
Oh,
And was
cool.
really inspired by a lot of Joe Hisayashi
Oh, his scores are so
scores.
beautiful.
Yeah.
I mean, there's some of the only scores that I'll put on just to listen to attentively, like not even
Oh yeah.
background, because they're just so lovely.
They're so lovely.
He should have an Oscar by now. What's that about?
Does he not? That is
No,
why.
he's never even been nominated. I think it's because he's mostly working in Japanese animation, which I don't think is, they're lucky, honestly, to get like an animated film Oscar,
Right.
but he deserves one.
I agree.
Maybe he'll get a lifetime achievement someday.
He should.
And finally, what is the last great fiction novel you've read?
I read it's called Burning by Megha Majumdar, and it like didn't feel like my type of book, but I just that was like the most recent book that I read that I really loved.
I've never heard of that or her.
Yeah, I think it came out last year and it was fantastic.
Oh, okay. I know I keep meaning to read more, but I'm an English teacher, so I spend like 9 months of the year talking about books I've read 1,000 times.
Yeah, it's gonna catch up with me that I've said that a lot. So don't be too impressed.
That's okay. Well, thank you very much, Michelle, for talking with me today through all the cyber difficulties.
Oh my God. Thank you so much I feel like I've just done this so much where like the other person like kind of gets angry with me for they're like totally out of my control and it's so stressful. So I am really glad that you've made me feel so comforted through all of this.
Oh no, it's like who gets angry? That's so stupid.
It's mostly people, I guess, with tighter turnaround deadlines, like live TV or radio or something. They get like really pissy and like I did this thing for and they're like, can you stop moving around? And I'm like, I'm not moving. Why would I be moving? They're like, do you have us on speakerphone? It's like, no, I don't have you on speaker. I'm not a psychopath. It's just like, I don't know what to do. So
that's
thank you.
So funny.
Thank you so much for being kind about it, because you made it, like not feel major stress about this thing.
Well, so, I don't know if it's just because I'm not NPR, but I like.
Yeah, but you come on with the soothing podcast voice and you tell me it's okay. And so I'm very appreciative of it.
Well, I was just going to say, like, I don't know if it's because I'm not NPR, but like, I just feel so genuinely grateful when anyone agrees to talk with me that like, if you're having internet problems, whatever, I'm gonna wait it out. Like that's fine.
Thank you so much for your understanding.
Well, of course. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure. Have a good day.
Yes, you have a good rest of your evening. Thank you so much. Bye.
Thank you.